Your kindness is killing you. That smile, that endless availability, that inability to say no, it's not making you a better person, it's making you a lesser version of yourself. Every time you say yes when your spirit screams no, you're committing a slow form of suicide. You're sacrificing your purpose on the altar of popularity, trading your destiny for temporary approval. The graveyard is full of people who were too friendly to fight for their dreams, too nice to nurture their potential, too afraid of disapproval to disappoint anyone but themselves. You are losing something right now. Every minute you spend trying to make everyone happy, you lose a part of yourself. Your potential is bleeding away while you smile and nod and say yes to things that steal your time, your energy, and your purpose. I want to talk to you today about something that might sound strange at first. Stop being too friendly. No, I'm not telling you to be me. I'm not saying don't care about people. What I am saying is that many of you are killing your future by trying to please everyone around you. You are so busy being nice that you have no time left to be great. Let me tell you about something that happened to me years ago. I was sitting in my office late one night, working on a project that wasn't even mine. A colleague had asked for a little help, and somehow I ended up doing his entire presentation. My phone kept ringing, people wanting advice, wanting my time, wanting favors, and I said yes to all of them. My desk was covered with other people's priorities. My calendar was filled with meetings I didn't need to attend. My energy was spent on problems that weren't mine to solve. And there, buried under all those external demands, was a small notebook where I had written my own dreams, my own goals gathering dust, because I was too busy being friendly to work on what truly mattered. That night, I looked at my watch and realized it was 2 a.m. I had been at the office for 18 hours. I had missed dinner with my family. And for what? To be nice, to be liked, to avoid disappointing people who probably wouldn't have done the same for me. I realized then that I wasn't being friendly, I was being foolish. I was sacrificing my purpose on the altar of popularity. Many of you are doing the exact same thing right now. You're saying yes when you should say no. You're giving away your most valuable resource, your time, to people who don't value it. You're putting other people's priorities ahead of your purpose. Being too friendly isn't kindness, it's a form of self-sabotage. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, especially not yourself. Your relationships become unbalanced. People start to expect your sacrifice. They begin to see your time, your energy, and your resources as something they're entitled to. And worst of all, you start to believe it too. The most dangerous thing about being too friendly isn't what it makes others do. It's what it makes you believe about yourself. You start to think your value comes from how much you give away, how available you are, how much you sacrifice. You begin to measure your worth by how much others need you rather than by how true you are to your purpose. Let me tell you what happens when you're too friendly. You become exhausted. Your energy isn't unlimited. Every time you say yes to something that isn't aligned with your purpose, you're saying no to your potential. You can't pour from an empty cup. And many of you are running on fumes because you've given everything away. Second, you become resentful. It starts small, a tiny voice in your head wondering why you're always the one picking up the slack. Always the one sacrificing. Always the one putting others first. That voice gets louder until one day that resentment spills over into your relationships, poisoning the very connections you were trying to nurture. Or third, you lose respect. Yes, that's right. People don't respect those who don't respect themselves. when you let others walk all over you, when you drop everything to meet their needs, when you consistently put yourself last, you're sending a message: my time isn't valuable. My boundaries don't matter. My purpose isn't important. And people will believe you. And most tragically, you miss your destiny. You were not born to be everyone's assistant. You were not put on this earth to make everyone comfortable. You were created with a specific purpose, with unique gifts, with a contribution that only you can make. But you can't fulfill that purpose if you're constantly derailed by every request, every need, every demand that comes your way. Now, let's talk about healthy boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges. They don't disconnect you from others. They create the conditions for authentic connection. When you have clear boundaries, people know what to expect from you. They know you value yourself and your time. And paradoxically, they value you more because of it. Think about the people you respect most. Are they the ones who are always available? Always saying yes? Always putting themselves last? Or are they the ones who have clear priorities? Who value their time? Who know when to say yes and when to say no? Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's stewardship. You've been given gifts, talents, resources, and time. You're responsible for managing those things well. You're accountable for the life you've been given. There, being too friendly often means being a poor steward of your purpose. Many of you are afraid that if you stop being so friendly, people won't like you anymore. Let me tell you a truth that might be hard to hear. If people only like you because you never say no, because you're always available, because you put their needs above your own, they don't really like you. They like what you do for them. They like the benefits of your sacrifice. They like the convenience of your availability. But they don't like you for who you are, because in all that giving, you've lost sight of who you are. There's a big difference between kindness and being taken advantage of. Kindness comes from strength. It's a choice you make from a place of self-respect and abundance. Being taken advantage of comes from weakness. It's what happens when you don't value yourself enough to establish healthy boundaries. Kindness says, I see your need and I choose to help because I care. Being taken advantage of says, I have to meet your need because I'm afraid of your disapproval. Kindness is giving what you can without resentment. Being taken advantage of is giving what you can't and resenting it afterward. Kindness fills you up. Being taken advantage of drains you. I've watched too many talented people waste their potential because they couldn't say no. I've seen brilliant minds stuck in mediocrity because they were too busy meeting everyone else's expectations to pursue excellence. I've witnessed people with world-changing ideas never change a thing because they were too friendly to rock the boat. Don't let that be your story. Let me tell you about Marcus, a brilliant young man I mentored some years ago. When I first met him, he was working 80 hours a week at a job he hated because he didn't want to disappoint his boss. His weekends were consumed by family obligations, not because he wanted to be there, but because he couldn't bear to say no. His friends regularly took advantage of his generosity, borrowing money they never repaid, showing up at his apartment unannounced, expecting him to drop everything for them. Marcus was everyone's friend, but he had no time to pursue his own dreams. He wanted to start a business, but between his job and all his friendships, he could barely find time to sleep, let alone build something of his own. One day, I asked him a simple question, Marcus, what would happen if you disappeared tomorrow? He looked confused. So I explained, if you vanished, your company would hire someone else. Your family would find other ways to handle their issues. Your friends would find someone else to take advantage of. Life would go on without you. But your purpose, that unique contribution only you can make, would die with you. That hit him hard. He realized he'd been living as if his only value was in what he could do for others, not in what he was created to do. Over the next year, Marcus transformed his life. He set office hours and stuck to them. Despite his boss's initial resistance, he started saying no to family demands that weren't emergencies. He had honest conversations with his friends about their one-sided relationships. Some of those friendships ended, and that was painful but necessary. With his new boundaries, Marcus found time to work on his business idea. He started small, working evenings and weekends. As his business grew, he reduced his hours at his job. 2 years later, he quit altogether to run his company full-time. The most interesting part, the people who truly cared about Marcus, the ones who valued him for who he was, not just what he could do for them, respected his boundaries. Those relationships grew stronger, deeper, more authentic. The relationships that couldn't survive his boundaries weren't worth keeping in the first place. Today, Marcus employs 15 people. His business helps small farmers get their products to market, improving both their livelihoods and food access in underserved communities. He's making a difference in the world, a difference that never would have happened if he had kept being too friendly. I'm not saying you should stop caring about people. I'm saying you should start caring about your purpose even more. Think about an airplane emergency. What do they tell you? Put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. Why? Because if you pass out from lack of oxygen, you can't help anyone. The same principle applies to your life. If you're constantly giving all your energy away, you'll have nothing left for your purpose. And if you never fulfill your purpose, the world loses the unique contribution only you can make. Your time is not a renewable resource. Once it's gone forever. Every minute you spend on activities that don't align with your purpose is a minute you'll never get back. Every yes to something that doesn't matter means a no to something that does. Stop being too friendly with your time. Stop being too generous with your energy. Stop saying yes when your spirit is screaming no. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming focused. It's about recognizing that you can't be all things to all people, and you weren't meant to be. It's about understanding that the greatest gift you can give to the world isn't your compliance or your constant availability. It's your authentic contribution. Your purpose fulfilled. Your potential realized. Many people live their entire lives without ever drawing a line, without ever saying, this far and no further. They become human doormats, letting everyone and everything walk over them. Then they wonder why they feel empty, exhausted, and resentful. They wonder why their dreams never materialize, why their goals remain out of reach, why their purpose goes unfulfilled. The answer is simple. They were too friendly with the wrong things and not friendly enough with the right ones. Too many people have built their prison with the bricks of accommodation. They have constructed walls of compliance around their potential. They have fortified these prisons with the cement of fear, fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear of being alone. And now they sit inside these structures they've built, wondering why their lives feel so confined, so limited, so far from what they dreamed. The key to freedom is in your hand right now. That key is the word no. 2 letters, 1 syllable, infinite power, When you learn to say no to what doesn't serve your purpose, you create space to say yes to what does. Most people have this backward. They say yes to everything, then wonder why they have no room for their priorities. Your no is as important as your yes, maybe more important. Every great achievement in history came from someone who said no to distractions and yes to focus. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every movement forward happened because someone refused to scatter their energy and instead concentrated it on what mattered most. I have seen countless talented people who couldn't say no. They were smart, capable, full of potential, but they never achieved what they were capable of because they couldn't refuse the constant demands on their time and energy. Meanwhile, I've watched people with half their talent accomplish twice as much simply because they understood the power of no. No is not a rejection of others. It's a protection of yourself, your time, your energy, your purpose. It's an acknowledgement that your resources are finite and must be stewarded wisely. The strongest people I know aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who know exactly when to say no. Their no comes from confidence, not fear. It comes from clarity, not confusion. It comes from understanding their worth, not questioning it. Many of you spend your days reacting to other people's urgencies, responding to every buzz of your phone, every notification, every request for just a minute of your time. Those minutes add up. Those interruptions compound. Soon, your life isn't yours anymore. It belongs to whoever makes the loudest demand. Stop giving away your power. Stop handing control of your life to others. Start saying no to what doesn't align with your purpose. And watch how quickly you start moving toward your goals. Now, let's talk about respect. Many people believe that being agreeable is available and accommodating earns them respect. This is one of the biggest lies in our culture today. Real respect doesn't come from making yourself small so others can feel big. It doesn't come from always saying yes. It doesn't come from being everyone's doormat. Respect comes from integrity, from standing for something, from having principles that don't bend with every gust of popular opinion. It comes from valuing yourself enough to expect others to value you too. It comes from knowing your worth and refusing to accept less. When you have clear boundaries, when you say no to what doesn't serve your purpose, people might be temporarily disappointed or even angry. But in the long run, they will respect you for it. They will understand that your time and energy are valuable. They will see that you are someone who knows their worth. Contrast this with what happens when you're too friendly, too available, too eager to please. Initially, people might seem happy with you, but over time, they start to take you for granted. They expect your sacrifice. They assume your compliance. And slowly, subtly, they begin to lose respect for you. I've seen this pattern play out hundreds of times. The person who never says no becomes the person everyone asks first, not because they value them, but because they know they won't refuse. The person who drops everything for others becomes the person others drop when something better comes along. The person who puts themselves last becomes the person others put last too. Building respect through boundaries isn't about being harsh or cold. It's about being clear and consistent. It's about communicating your expectations and holding to them. It's about teaching others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you want others to respect your time, you must respect it first. If you want others to value your energy, you must value it first. If you want others to honor your boundaries, you must honor them first. Here's a hard truth many of you need to hear. Some of the relationships in your life are toxic. Some of the people you're bending over backward to please are taking advantage of you. Some of the connections you're desperately trying to maintain are draining you rather than sustaining you. Not all relationships deserve your energy. Not all connections serve your purpose. Not all people in your life want what's best for you. How do you identify these toxic relationships? Look for these signs. You feel exhausted after spending time with them. Not energized. They take far more than they give. They only contact you when they need something. They disappear when you're going through challenges of your own. They resist or ignore your boundaries. They make you feel guilty for prioritizing your needs or pursuing your goals. Your success seems to make them uncomfortable or resentful. They consistently undermine your confidence or question your decisions. You find yourself apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You feel like you're walking on eggshells around them. If several of these signs sound familiar in a relationship, you need to make some hard decisions. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do both for yourself and ultimately for them is to create distance. Some relationships need healthy space. Others need to end entirely. This isn't about casting blame or harboring resentment. It's about recognizing that just as you have a purpose, you also have priorities. And if a relationship consistently pulls you away from your priorities rather than supporting them, that relationship may be costing you more than it's worth. I'm not saying cut people off at the first sign of difficulty. I'm saying assess the pattern, not the isolated incidents. I'm saying look at whether the relationship, on balance, adds to your life or subtracts from it. I'm saying consider whether this connection is moving you toward your purpose or away from it. Your time on this earth is limited. Your energy is finite. You cannot afford to invest these precious resources in relationships that deplete you rather than develop you. This brings me to a critical point. Your purpose and your priorities must align. Many people claim to know their purpose but set priorities that contradict it completely. They say they want to build a business, but prioritize watching TV over working on their business plan. They say they want to be healthy, but prioritize convenience over nutrition. They say they want deeper relationships, but prioritize social media over real conversations. Your priorities reveal your true purposes, not the ones you talk about, but the ones you actually live by. If you want to know what you're really committed to, look at how you spend your time, your energy, your money. Look at what you say yes to and what you say no to. Look at what gets your best and what gets your leftovers. If your current priorities don't align with your stated purpose, one of two things must change. Either your priorities or your purpose. Either start living what you claim to value, or be honest about what you actually value based on how you live. Being too friendly often leads to a total misalignment between purpose and priorities. You say your family is your priority, but you can't say no to your boss. So you miss your child's recital. You say your health is your priority, but you can't say no to social obligations. So you skip exercise and sleep. You say your business is your priority, but you can't say no to distractions. So your business stagnates. Stop this cycle. Align your priorities with your purpose by learning to say no to what doesn't move you forward. Let me give you some practical steps to stop being too friendly. First, get clear on your purpose. You cannot protect what you don't identify. Write down your personal mission statement. What were you created to do? What contribution are you meant to make? What problem are you here to solve? Unless you know your purpose, you won't know what deserves your yes and what deserves your no. Second, audit your current commitments. Make a list of everything you said yes to, every obligation, every responsibility, every recurring activity. Next to each one, write whether it aligns with your purpose or not. Be brutally honest. You'll likely find that many of your current commitments are taking you nowhere near your goals. Third, create scripts for saying no. Many people struggle with no because they don't know how to say it gracefully. Prepare simple, clear, kind ways to decline requests. Practice them until they feel natural. Remember, you don't need to explain or justify your no. I'm not able to take that on right now as a complete sentence. Go forth. Start small. Don't try to transform all your relationships overnight. Begin by setting boundaries in low-risk situations. Say no to the telemarketer. Decline the optional meeting. As you build this muscle, gradually apply it to more important areas of your life. Fifth, expect resistance. When you start setting boundaries, people will test them. They're used to your yes, and they won't give it up easily. Some will push back. Some will try to make you feel guilty. Some might even get angry. Stand firm. The temporary discomfort of maintaining your boundary is nothing compared to the permanent resentment of continually crossing it. Sixth, surround yourself with boundary respecters. Seek out people who honor your no, who don't take your time for granted, who respect your priorities. These healthy relationships will give you strength to address the unhealthy ones. Finally, celebrate your progress. Every time you successfully protect your boundaries, acknowledge it. Every time you say no to what doesn't serve your purpose, recognize the victory. You're reclaiming your life one decision at a time. Let me tell you about Sophia, a woman who attended one of my leadership conferences several years ago. When I met her, she was exhausted, burned out, and resentful. As a community organizer, she had been saying yes to every request, every committee, every cause. She worked 70-hour weeks, was available by phone 24/7, and hadn't taken a vacation in 3 years. Her health was suffering. Her relationships were strained. And despite all her work, her impact was limited because she was spread too thin to excel at anything. During our workshop on boundaries, something clicked for Sophia. She realized that by trying to help everyone, she was actually helping no one effectively, least of all herself. She committed to making a change. It wasn't easy. She had to step down from several committees. She had to start turning off her phone after 8 p.m. She had to learn to delegate tasks. She had always handled herself. Some people in her community were upset, even called her selfish, but she held firm. With her newfound time and energy, Sophia focused on the one area where she could make the greatest impact: youth mentorship. Rather than being involved in a dozen initiatives superficially, she poured herself into this one area deeply. 2 years later, I received a letter from Sophia. Her youth program had expanded to 3 locations and was showing measurable results in keeping at-risk teenagers in school. She had trained 10 other mentors who were now leading their own groups. She had secured stable funding through grants. She actually had time to write properly. Her health had improved dramatically. Her closest relationships were stronger than ever. And here's what struck me most: the very people who initially resisted her boundaries were now among her biggest supporters. They respected her focus, her clarity, her results. by stopping being too friendly. Sophia had actually increased her positive impact on her community. Your story can follow a similar path. You can go from being scattered to focused, from exhausted to energized, from resentful to purposeful. But it starts with a decision to stop being too friendly with what doesn't matter so you can be fully committed to what does. Remember, the world doesn't need more nice people who say yes to everything. The world needs more purposeful people who say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. The world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs more difference makers. And you cannot make a difference if you're too busy making everyone happy.